Please welcome Mr. Vasile Tofan, Senior Partner at Horizon Capital.
Okay, guys, so you know that happiness is the difference between expectations and reality. And given such high expectations, I can only make you unhappy today because it will be impossible to deliver against them. But I promise you one thing, I'm going to be very honest with what I share. And this is going to be, in a way, even impulsive. I put this presentation together like on a whim, very quickly. It's based on, say, what I learned over the years. It will not have fancy slides. Most of the slides are going to be very ugly because I focused on the substance, not on the form. Just a few words about Horizon. This is more kind of numbers dropping, name dropping, all things to try to impress you. It's a big firm. We manage a lot of money, and most importantly, despite operating in a region that is very tough, I shouldn't tell you it's tough because you come from this region and most of our investments are in Ukraine. We managed to have and generate for our investors attractive returns, very attractive returns. So it means there's something we were doing right. And the most important thing that we got right was backing the right entrepreneurs and working alongside these entrepreneurs, to generate those returns. And if there's one thing I'm most proud about, is about the entrepreneurs we backed. And because the title, it's a cheesy title, let's face it, like from startup to unicorn, like there's nothing cheesier than that. But maybe I'll allow myself to take just a little bit of credit for other people's work, our entrepreneurs' work, because we did produce a number of unicorns. So look at this slide: Ajax, unicorn; Airslate, unicorn; Aurora, which is a chain of stores, has $1.2 billion in sales, 160 million in EBITDA, probably a unicorn. Creatio, formal unicorn, they closed the round with the top investors, despite having the R&D in Ukraine, at $1.3 billion valuation, so clearly a unicorn. Genesis, more than $1 billion in sales, unicorn. Cyclone before that, not a unicorn, but we sold our stakes to Soros Fund, the only investment by the Soros Fund management, not the foundation, but the real guys, the finance guys, So glass container company, not a unicorn, but in a COVID year, we sold it for almost $100 million enterprise value, so very, very, very large. So look, I can go and name drop, a number drop, but we produce lots of companies. And let me speak about a couple that I'm very proud about. Mayib used to be a bit of a boring bank. Now it's a bank, I think it's one of the hottest banks in CEE, and actually it was mentioned as the best digital bank in CEE. No, it's not my merit, that's Tim's merits. Georgi had a presentation today, but very close to unicorn. Right? If you ask me, like, what's the value of Mayib, probably it's around 500 million today, so say half unicorn. Purcari, quarter unicorn, almost. So a small, group of farmers, like, tractor drivers and grape pickers, they built a company that was valued by Maspex. It was $240 million enterprise value. So quarter unicorn. So even Moldova almost got there. Rosetka, 3 billion GMV. So clearly unicorn. Tinkoff, IPO London Stock Exchange, $3 billion. Got to $20 billion before the Russians took it. Unicorn. So lots of those. That was super ugly, unimpressive, obnoxious, name and numbers dropping. But that was just to establish the credibility. Now you say, like, yeah, Vasile, you were lucky, you were backing those companies, but like, do you know something about like building a unicorn as opposed to investing in a unicorn? And look, I'll not pretend I know all about this, but in my defense, I'll say that, look, I did start a company and grew a company not to a 9-figure valuation, but to an 8-figure valuation. So almost there, one figure loss. That's Ovia Health. It's public information acquired by LabCorp. And I invested in a number of companies, and maybe I'll mention just one that I'm very proud about. It's in Moldova, by the way. It's not often I talk about this, but I invested in a company from Moldova, which got very, very successful. It's one of the, I think, one of the largest gaming success stories out of Moldova. So that's my personal experience as an entrepreneur. And as an investor, I backed a number of these, and what I call an operator. So I got really involved in a number of these cases. So the guys at my IB know I'm spending a lot of time. I have a little desk on floor number 7, kind of spending a lot of time there, trying to do something here at the bank. I'm also quite involved in Porcar, and quite a few other companies otherwise. So look, this was the show-off part. Again, super obnoxious. You can think I'm a total freak, for telling all those things, but I try to establish some credibility that, look, I learned a thing or two about what makes companies successful, like what makes entrepreneurs successful. And here I'm going to share it in a very, say, transparent, genuine way. Couple of things. First, it's like really, and I'm using, you see, I'm not using our entrepreneurs, I'm using kind of more classical examples so that we all get it, but I think substance is kind of more important than form here. First is like, really it's about genuine obsession with customers. Too often I'm seeing entrepreneurs who come and pitch me, and I almost feel it that they are obsessed about the money part, the metrics part, but they completely lose the customer. When I start asking and probing questions about like, what's the real pain? How many people did you talk to? Are you solving a real problem or an imaginary problem? I'm kind of getting a little bit disappointed because I see that people haven't actually spoken to enough customers like to feel that pain. And the best picture that brings it for me to life is this picture of you recognize Jeff Bezos, his famous desk, which was not a real desk. It was, a door actually put on some iron things, like the logo painted. He didn't care about the form. He cared about the stuff, but he was obsessed with building a service that customers will like and appreciate. And I think this picture, like if you're a startup founder, or if you're building something, I think this picture motivates me a lot, like to really care about customers. At my IP, for example, I'm getting like tens of messages from people. Lots of people are unhappy, mostly unhappy, many of them, because that's why they write to me, look, my payment was blocked, my loan wasn't approved, and so on. And personally, I really try to problem solve each time and really listen to people and listen to their frustration. This is super, super important to get a sense of the business, right? I'll give you an example. So look, this is a very interesting bank from Kazakhstan. Many of you haven't heard about it, Kaspi, So they have this unbelievable almost story, unbelievable story. So their most profitable product was a credit card. But at Kaspi, they decided that the most important metric for them is not the profit they earn, not the return on investment, not the sales growth, but is the NPS. Who knows what an NPS is? So Net Promoter Score, how happy are your customers? So this was the number one metric for them. And despite them making most of the money on this credit card, it had a low NPS. Actually, it had a negative NPS. It means it had more detractors than promoters. And Kaspi management decided to shut down the product. How many businesses do you know who will shut down their money maker, right? And move to something completely else. So they moved to BNPL because it was a product still small for them, but it had a lot of traction and had a good NPS. And Kaspi today, costs, I haven't checked the latest, but at peak, I think it was valued at $24 billion. Now, maybe it's just below 20, but it's a massive success story out of relatively small market, Kazakhstan. Just for you to understand, $20 billion, that's more than a bank like Raiffeisen, or many other established countries. So Kaspi, like if you're looking for a bank like obsessed with customers that have built something like truly remarkable, look into the Kaspi story. I think you'll get a lot of inspiration. The second thing is, look, the customer will drive your strategy and it will drive a lot of your product focus. The second thing is, before you do anything else, you really need to get the right people on board. And especially, I think we live in very exciting times. I don't want to say cheesy things about like solo entrepreneurs or 10 people unicorns and so on. But the reality is we do live in super exciting times when you don't need hundreds of people to build something truly big. You can sometimes build it like with 5 or 10 people, but make sure these 5 or 10 people are like the best people you can find. And too often, I'm getting like entrepreneurs reach out to me and they ask for advice, and they spend too much time on what should I do with this problem or that problem, when I think we should spend most of the time in getting the absolute best people you can, because if you get the absolute best people you can, these people will solve lots of problems. You'll not have to problem solve. Your most important problem solving is finding the right people, and if you get the right people, you'll solve. My favorite, absolute number one phrase in management is first who, then what. First who, then what. When I find myself spending a lot of time, sorting out certain things, I tell myself, look, the conclusion is you don't have the right people in place. Let's first get the right people in place, and then you'll not spend that much time. And I've done it over and over and over again at all the companies I was involved in. Will not give examples, but maybe this bank is also an example. And the difference, you see, it's not linear. The difference between a A player and a B player, or say a person who has 10, or a person you would rank as an 8 out of 10, is not, it's not that a 10 is 25% better than an 8. A 10 typically can be, like 5 times better than an 8. Sorry, I'm a little bit maybe diminishing the human dignity here by putting numbers on people, but you understand, like a 10, believe me, is not 25% better than an 8. So make sure you get the 10s, make sure you get the 9s. In fact, my favorite interview question when I'm interviewing people, and I'm really interviewing a lot, I'm hiring a lot, is how would your manager, and I'm asking the specific question, would rank you on a scale from 0 to 10? And I typically try to hire people who rank themselves a 9 or a 10, but you understand, if the people rank themselves a 9 or a 10, I'm going to call that manager and ask that question, like, do you rank this person a 9 or a 10? So they know that I'm going to call, that's why they are quite say, honest in answering that question. Why this is so important on people, I'm still staying on this topic of people, because unfortunately we live in a region that is really challenged demographically. This is, look, the picture with Ukraine is truly like painful. You understand why this is happening. Moldova is a little bit better, but not much. So we actually face a very strong demographic pressure, because we have a very wide generation born in the 80s. This is the widest generation in Moldova. But this generation, the most numerous, is followed by shorter generations in the 90s and the 2000s. So if you feel that now you cannot find enough people, believe me, in 10 years from now, as the 80s are transitioning into retirement, or 15 years from now, it's going to be much more painful to find these people. So the practical implication is that as you think about your business, and you're thinking about, okay, you're spending time on marketing, you're spending time on logistics, operations, whatever other functions, I think a key competence for any business operating today, anywhere in the world, is being the best at attracting and retaining talent. So attracting talent, retaining talent it's truly a key source of competitive advantage for the years to come. Okay, too much about people. Number 3, in no particular order, but this is an important one, staying humble. Hopefully in your journey, you'll have success. And I've seen too many companies that, kind of got success early, and then they lose it. They get drunk by the success. Like they lose touch. They get some money, or they take some money off the table. They start dressing differently. They buy expensive cars. They start talking to important people. They really lose it a little bit. And the best example of this is this guy. Who knows this guy? Yes, Adam Newman is his name. He was the CEO and founder of WeWork. You see, and it's a fine balance. As an entrepreneur, on one side, you have to create what Steve Jobs was calling the reality distortion field. So you have to create this kind of like really distorted reality that motivates everybody, that transforms everybody into a sect. And guys, we're going, we're going to get better, But at the same time, you have to stay somehow humble and control yourself, which is very difficult, And for example, this guy, he completely lost it. There's this famous story about him, when he met Masayoshi Son from SoftBank, and SoftBank was spreading money around a lot, and he met Masayoshi Son, and he pitches Masayoshi Son on, I don't know, several $1 billion fundraise, and he's like a crazy person pitching to Masayoshi Son, and then he pauses. Masayoshi Son looks at him, and Adam asks Masayoshi Son, do you think I'm too crazy? And Masayoshi Son pauses and answers, no, I think you're not crazy enough. You know, so two crazy people met, and unfortunately, when two crazy people meet, you know, it's always ending ugly. You know how ugly this ended. WeWork was a company valued at $40 billion, and it was valued effectively at zero, so they lost everything. And this example of the corporate structure they put together, they tried to sell this to the investor, which really meant they completely lost it. They were not humble. They thought they can sell everything onto investors. So they created the most intransparent, you know, nepotism focused, where his wife was deciding everything and he was deciding the second half and so on. So they really kind of lost the humbleness part. You have to stay humble no matter how successful you are, because the life is going to challenge you otherwise. Number 3, or what is it? Yeah, number 4, sorry guys, you see I'm completely technology inept. Number 4, on raising capital, you have to raise money. And look, I had my own painful experience with raising money. Believe me, I pitched like more than 100 investors. So I know what this means to be on the other side of the table before becoming an investor, when I was raising money for Ovia. And fortunately, one of the first pitches I had was to the general partner of Flybridge Capital in Boston, a guy called Jeff Basgang. And I came to him and I said, like, look, here's my idea. This is what we're building. I need $400,000. This is the valuation. Kind of give me the money, you know. And he said, like, Vasile, I like you, but you have to understand one thing. Investors don't invest in pictures. They invest in movies. I got the first picture of you. Show me the movie. And this was such a profound feedback, you know. I understood that, look, it's a little bit unrealistic to expect that you're going to pitch somebody and that somebody is going to hand you the money like almost immediately. That happens sometimes, but it's more the exclusion than the norm. So you have to build the movie for investors. Create a mail list. Start sending these updates every month, every 2 months, whatever you believe is the right cadence. Get people accustomed to you. Get people accustomed to your story. Be transparent. And believe me, your chances to raise money will increase dramatically. I'm giving this advice all the time, and people ignore it all the time. I'll tell you, 95% of the people I gave this advice to haven't followed it. So if you follow, you're going to be like in the top 5%, because 95% still don't follow it, while it's such a simple advice. Number 4, 5, whatever. Look, the thing is, we live in a world that is craving for our attention. It's super difficult to live. As a parent, you know, I have 3 boys. I'm actually frightened for their future. There's just too much information. There's too short attention spans. You know, we are bombarded with information from every side. Even I kind of bombarded with information now. Many of you are on the phone now. Maybe you're listening to me, but you're also checking your email or TikToks and so on. So people want our attention. It's more difficult than ever to get people's attention. You see, so a key competence, in addition to being good at hiring and retaining people, I think, is getting really good at telling your story. You know, you can call it like being good at PR, but it's not only about PR. It's like really telling your story. You can tell it via traditional media, you can tell it via social media, but it's such an important skill. You know, I'm told that the first lesson that young journalists get when they go to any faculty of journalism in the world is the story of a young reporter going to an experienced editor and saying, I have a story, like, you know, a dog beat a man. Beat, la mușcat, right? Câine o mușcat pe un bărbat. And the editor, who was very experienced, says, like, I don't need a story about the dog that beat a man. Give me a story about a man that beat a dog, you know? So, and really we need to get good at storytelling, because we have to fight for people's attention. You know, and this is the editor of TechCrunch, and so many times in my life I had, you know, like, oh, do you know somebody at TechCrunch? I want to tell them a story, like I want them to write about my startup and so on. And find this YouTube video of this editor of TechCrunch, I think it's in Istanbul somewhere, or in Antalya, you know, where he says that the journalists, they are all craving for nice stories. They are craving for what he calls a purple cow. You don't have purple cow. Nobody's interested in a black cow. Nobody's interested in a white cow. Everybody's interested in a purple cow, right? So you have to be the purple cow. Find your story. Find your interesting story. That's super important. I can recommend you one book. Sorry, I'm trying to be practical. This is actually a good book. You know, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to read nowadays, but I know one of the books that really changed my view on the world, and I think hopefully helped me a little bit to get a little bit better on storytelling is this book. Take a note, read it. It's super, super fun to read, and I think it will help you to get better at storytelling. Some personal examples, sometimes like a story has to be juicy with Ovuline, for example, so Ovia Health. You know, because we were in this space of monitoring quite intimate data, you know, kind of, you know, pregnancies and monitoring the babies and monitoring, I don't know, sexual intercourses and monitoring like luteal phases and everything about cycle and so on. So we really managed to work with that in a good way. So we got lots of great stories. You know, for example, this one was, what was it? Like, look, pandemic, people started having kind of more, like there was nothing to do, you were staying at home, so people started having more babies. Like we have a story about that, you know. Then we had a bit of a scandal when apparently some of our customers were monitoring some of the health data of our clients, you know. Okay, we had a story about that. Yes, it was a bit of a negative story, but still was a story that got us a lot of good publicity in the end. You know, so you have to tell the stories. Number 6, look, if you want to build a really good, big company, it helps to think one step ahead and not think of yourself as a product, as a platform. I know this is easier to say than done. I know kind of platforms are the mecca, and you understand what is the difference between a product and a platform. So if you have the platform mentality, you're thinking of onboarding things. If it's a marketplace, it's natural. You're a platform, right? I don't know. You understand, Booking is a marketplace, Uber is a marketplace. So you understand, if it's a marketplace, it's naturally that it's a platform because you have all the suppliers on the marketplace. But also if it's a SaaS company, you can have this platform mentality. So Maib is trying to become a platform. You know, okay, so you're a lender, but also maybe we can integrate insurance into our app, as Alena was sharing. Like you can integrate other services. We had tries with like housing, we had tries with cars. So every product aims to be a platform because platforms are sticky. You understand, they have much more engagement with customers. So if you can build platform functionality as opposed to purely product functionality, this will help you scale a lot. And by the way, here's the numbers. Just look, this is data as of yesterday. So I just pulled all the largest, you know, internet companies from North America, I think here. So look, all of them are platforms. Alphabet, of course, is a platform. Amazon, natural platform. Meta is a platform, of course. Apple is AppLovin is a platform. Uber, and so on. So only Electronic Arts is not a platform. It's more, say, a the traditional product approach. So that's number 6, and I'm completely out of time. Last thing is you need to stay intellectually honest. This is maybe the most difficult one. That's why I end with it. You see, on one side, you have to create, as I said, the reality distortion field, and maybe you stay humble as well, as I said in rule number 3, but at some point, you just need to face the data. And too often, I'm seeing founders who lie to themselves, and they genuinely lie to themselves. You know, they are very selective about the data. They are seeing only the data that helps their hypothesis. They refuse to see the data that disproves their hypothesis, which means very often you'll spend a lot of time in trying to actually lying for yourself, because as human beings, you know, we are very defensive. You know, am I maybe not good enough? You know, or maybe still this data is wrong. I need another 6 months to try it. You know, people hate to disappoint themselves. You know, so intellectual honesty is like super, super important for a startup founder. At some point, you just have to look into the data and be intellectually honest with yourself, no matter how painful that is. Will following these 7 principles help you for sure build an unicorn? Of course not. Will they improve your chances by X%? It's difficult for me to say, like 10%, 20%, you know, 50%, I don't know. But please trust me, having seen so many founders, having invested in so many companies, having built some companies myself too, I think listening to this is maybe not the worst thing you may do. At the same time, as I often joke, you know, giving advice is a very ungrateful thing, because there's always the risk that people will listen to you. So now it's on your risk to do so or not. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Q&A. I guess everyone has questions. Do you? Okay. So my colleagues will help me with the mic. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Christian.
Christian Zilberberg. I know him for 20 years.
Thank you. So my question is about one of your points about getting the right people on the bus, first food and what. So you suggested that a way to build a unicorn is attracting top talent. I was thinking, how much is it important in the age of AI? First question. And second question is, what should all the 8, 7, 6 and so on do?
No, great question. And look, he studied at the philosophy department. And by the way, I think as too young about ourselves, because it's not 20 years, it's actually 30 years we know each other. So really old, Christian, like really old. So really old and boring people by now. So, and you understand, I'm making this joke because I need to think about your second question. I know the answer to the first one. So the first question, what does talent mean in the age of AI? Don't pretend to be an expert, but I think it's even more important. It's even more important, right? Simply because like the productivity of say an A player is so much higher helped by all the tools. So that's why we have all the discussions that you'll have very soon solo unicorns and 5-people team unicorns and so on. So I think the short answer is that the productivity is dramatically enhanced, but the people who can make most of the available tools are the A players. Now, I know what I said sounds very elitist, and actually you're asking a very good question. Okay, not everybody is a 9 and a 10, so what is the role for say 7 and 8s? And I realize I sound as a complete jerk now, as a complete asshole, so I apologize, but I really I think it's a very profound question, so I'm also thinking aloud now. I think I can answer it in a very diplomatic way, that look, we have so much technology now, and people can get better, and we always have to strive and so on, but the reality is that society is born unequal, so that's the reality. At the same time, look, for example, I tend to assess people mostly on will as opposed to skill, and I think on will, everybody can be a 10. That I really believe. On will, everybody be a 10. And sometimes, for example, when I'm recruiting, when I'm seeing a person, say, who in my asshole jerk world, super cynical guy that you get the impression by now, is somebody is an 8 or a 7, but has the will of a 10, I'll hire that person. Because a will of a 10 in our world, I think means a lot. And I agree that not everybody can be, say, a 10 because we are born unequal. But everybody can have the will of a 10. This is only up to us.
Thank you. The second question, keep it short, please. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Vasile, first of all, I would like to say probably at least 1/3 of people here, maybe even more, are here because they are part of your fan club. And I'm one of them, so thank you for the presentation. You mentioned that you have 3 kids, and I'm sure many of people here do have kids or plan to have kids. What would be your recommendation to what we should focus, or what professions would be good in 5, 10 years? Because if you think like 10 years ago, and your child didn't know what they wanted to do after school, you would say, okay, go study economics or law or languages, and you'll definitely find something. Now knowing that AI will be taking many jobs, what would be your recommendation for kids to focus on? Thank you.
Thank you. Look, I have to react to your fan comment first. So, look, and I don't say it like to come across as humble and so on, but the more you get to know me, maybe the less you'll understand you have to be a fan. I'm just a really normal person like everybody else with lots of flaws as well. Some of them you saw it on the scene. So please don't make idols, and I'm not I shouldn't be one for sure. 100%, I guarantee you. Lots of people know me here, right? So 100%. Now, And this is an intro also to your question, because I'm not the expert on child education. And even yesterday I was talking to my wife, and I have to say I'm as lost as you are on this one. And I think this is the most painful question, how to be a good parent, how to raise good kids. I have 3 boys, 4, 11, 13. And at least some of the choices we made in terms of what to prioritize with my wife are the following. 1, we decided that maybe the absolute most important thing we need to pass to our children is integrity and values, by far. Because if I'm thinking about like our children, like the one way this can completely go wrong with them if they make a stupid values mistake. Hit somebody with a car, steal something, God forbid, do something. So for us, this is like kind of the number 1 priority. And kids only learn when they see things. They do what they see. They don't do what you tell them. And which means that we have to be very high integrity, right values parents. So that's number 1. And I think this is AI, non-AI. This is the most important thing when people ask me. What we decided as a family is the most important thing. Which means that, look, you really have to leave it. Sorry, I'm dwelling too much on this, but you cannot lie, you cannot fake it to the kids. They sense it, they see, because they see you all the time. So if your values are wrong, there's very high likelihood that they'll copy that. That's 1. 2, the 1 skill we decided to focus most on is curiosity. Because for me, it's difficult to say, should they be mathematicians, should they be historians? But I am confident that curiosity is the one thing that will make them thrive in any society. AI first, AI second, doesn't matter. If you're curious, you'll want to learn. You'll have the hunger. You'll want to discover. You'll want to constantly adjust to a very fast-changing world. So the short answer to your question is curiosity. And the number 3 decision we made is to educate them in a low-tech world. Our kids grew analog. Even our older boy, who's 13, just got a phone. And by the way, that was like a hard negotiation there. But you understand, I'm seeing kids, who get a phone at like 8, 9. I think that's too early. So we grew our kids with minimum screen time, and in a very analog world. And it's very difficult negotiations. It's very difficult to do, easier said than done, but that's a choice we made, and I think it's working in terms of attention span, in terms of ability to focus, discipline, so I think that's a deliberate choice we made.
So I am so sorry, but that was the last question. You can reach out to Mr. Tofan during the break, so give him a big round of applause. He was great, amazing. I guess you can better. Please.